At 3:47 a.m. this morning, Maria Santos was walking her dog along Clearwater Beach when the sand beneath her feet started to vibrate. She looked down and watched a crack appear, then widen, then suddenly the entire shoreline dropped 300 feet into the earth, swallowing palm trees, beach chairs, and a quarter-mile of Florida coastline in less than 90 seconds. I'm Irina Bondarenko, and what Maria witnessed wasn't just a freak accident. New geological surveys from the Florida Geological Survey reveal that the same limestone foundation supporting Miami Beach is riddled with identical weak points. Dr. Sarah Mitchell from the University of South Florida has been tracking these formations for over a decade, and her latest findings change everything we thought we knew about Florida's stability. Are we watching the first domino fall in a chain reaction that could erase entire cities from the map? And if the ground can vanish this quickly in clear water, what's stopping Miami's billion-dollar skyline from following the same path into the abyss? To understand what happened in Clearwater, we need to go back 25 million years. Florida sits on a foundation of limestone formed when this entire region was underwater. This limestone isn't just any rock, it's a geological time bomb. Made primarily of calcium carbonate, this porous foundation is continuously being eaten away by groundwater, creating vast underground caves and cavities that can suddenly collapse without warning. The first recorded major sinkhole in modern Florida history occurred in 1981 when Winter Park lost an entire city block overnight. The Winter Park Sinkhole, as it became known, swallowed a 3-bedroom home, 6 Porsche cars from a local dealership, and portions of the city swimming pool. What appeared to be solid ground one day became a gaping 350-foot-wide hole the next. Since then, the state has documented over 15,000 sinkholes, with the frequency accelerating dramatically in recent decades. Florida experiences more sinkholes than any other state, not because of bad luck, but because of geology. We're literally living on dissolving rock, explains Dr. James Rodriguez of the Florida Institute of Technology. The peninsula is essentially a massive limestone platform covered by a thin veneer of sand and soil. It's like building castles on sugar cubes and then pouring water over them. What makes Florida's karst topography particularly dangerous is that the limestone isn't uniform in density or thickness. Some areas feature limestone hundreds of feet thick, while others might have just a few dozen feet separating surface dwellers from the aquifer below. This creates an unpredictable honeycomb effect beneath the surface, a geological Russian roulette for development. But here's what's changed. In the past 5 years, coastal sinkholes have increased by 340%. What used to happen inland is now happening where millions of people live, work, and vacation. This shift in sinkhole activity represents a fundamental change in Florida's geological behavior, and it has scientists alarmed. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, a hydrogeologist with the U.S. Geological Survey, has been studying this coastal shift. We're seeing a pattern emerge that doesn't align with historical data. Sinkholes traditionally formed inland, where rainwater would slowly dissolve the limestone from above. Now we're witnessing accelerated formation along the coastlines, suggesting a new mechanism at work. That mechanism appears to be connected to sea level rise. As ocean waters encroach further inland, saltwater intrusion into the freshwater aquifer creates more aggressive dissolution of the limestone. Saltwater is significantly more corrosive to limestone than fresh water, accelerating the formation of underground cavities at rates never before documented. Think of it as the difference between using water or vinegar to clean calcium deposits, explains Warren. The acidic nature of the salt water creates chemical reactions that can dissolve limestone up to 10 times faster than fresh water alone. Historical records from the Florida Geological Survey confirm this pattern. Between 1950 and 2000, approximately 85% of documented sinkholes occurred more than 15 miles inland. Since 2015, over 60% of new sinkholes are forming within 5 miles of the coastline. This dramatic geographical shift aligns perfectly with models predicting saltwater intrusion due to rising sea levels. Sinkholes don't just appear randomly, they follow a predictable pattern, and scientists have identified the warning signs. First, small cracks appear in pavement and foundations. Then circular depressions form in lawns and open areas, often collecting water after rain. Finally, the collapse occurs, sometimes gradually over days, but increasingly, as in Clearwater, catastrophically in minutes. Dr. Lisa Chen from the National Sinkhole Research Institute has mapped Florida's most vulnerable zones after analyzing thousands of sinkhole events. Her findings are disturbing for coastal communities. The I-4 corridor from Tampa to Orlando has traditionally been called Sinkhole Alley due to its geological vulnerability, Chen notes, but our new data indicates that Tampa Bay, the Space Coast, and critically, the entire Miami-Dade coastline sit directly over what geologists call Swiss cheese limestone, areas where underground caverns and voids have reached critical density. Chen's research team has developed what they call the Subsidence Vulnerability Index, or SVY, which uses ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistivity imaging, and historical collapse data to predict future sinkhole locations. Areas with an SVY over 7.5 are considered at extreme risk. Miami Beach registers an 8.3. What makes this situation particularly alarming is how climate change has supercharged this process. Rising sea levels push saltwater deeper into the limestone, accelerating dissolution. According to NOAA data, the rate of limestone erosion has doubled since 2010. This means processes that once took centuries are now occurring in decades or even years. The fundamental chemistry hasn't changed, explains Dr. Rodriguez. What's changed is the volume and concentration of the dissolving agent. We're seeing more saltwater intrusion due to sea level rise, more extreme rainfall events dumping massive volumes of water through the system in short periods, and continued groundwater pumping that alters subsurface pressure. This acceleration factor is most evident in South Florida, where Miami International Airport, downtown Miami's financial district, and luxury condominiums worth billions are all built on the same dissolving foundation that just claimed Clearwater Beach. These structures weren't built with this accelerated timeline in mind. The engineering standards that guided Florida's coastal development assumed geological stability on timescales of centuries, not decades. Buildings with expected lifespans of 75 to 100 years may now be sitting on foundations that could fail within a fraction of that time. Dr. Wei Jiang, a geotechnical engineer specializing in foundation systems, has been warning about this disconnect. When the Fontainebleau Hotel was built in Miami Beach in the 1950s, its foundation was designed based on the geological understanding of the time. No one anticipated we would see the level of subsurface dissolution we're witnessing today. Recent ground-level monitoring across Miami Beach shows troubling signs of this accelerated timeline. Survey markers placed by city engineers in 2010 show an average subsidence, or sinking, of 2.3 millimeters per year through 2018. From 2019 to present, that rate has jumped to 5.7 millimeters annually. While this might seem minimal, it represents a 148% increase in the rate at which the ground is literally sinking beneath the city. More concerning is that this subsidence isn't uniform. Some areas show minimal movement, while others demonstrate alarming rates of up to 12 millimeters yearly. These differential settlement patterns create stress on buildings, roads, and utility infrastructure not designed to accommodate such movement. In the past 72 hours since the Clearwater collapse, seismic monitors have detected micro-tremors beneath Miami-Dade County. These aren't earthquakes. They're the sound of underground cavities expanding, collapsing, and redistributing stress through the limestone substrate. These acoustic signatures match patterns recorded just weeks before previous major sinkhole events. The Clearwater sinkhole itself represents an unprecedented escalation in both scale and location. Geological surveys of the collapse reveal it formed along a previously unknown fault line in the limestone, a weakness that wasn't visible in surveys conducted just 5 years ago. Ground-penetrating radar now shows similar fault patterns beneath Miami Beach, Coral Gables, and Key Biscayne. What makes the Clearwater event so significant isn't just its size, explains Dr. Mitchell. It's that it occurred in an area where our models predicted we had at least another decade before reaching critical cavity density. Something has fundamentally changed in the system. That change appears to be what Dr. Mitchell's team is calling accelerated cavity formation beneath South Florida. We're seeing limestone dissolution rates that should take decades happening in months, she warns. Laboratory analysis of limestone cores from the Clearwater site shows chemical alterations consistent with exposure to highly saline water with elevated acidity, conditions increasingly common as sea levels rise and rainfall patterns become more extreme. But here's the terrifying part. Sinkholes can trigger other sinkholes. The Clearwater collapse has redistributed underground water pressure across a 50-mile radius. That pressure has to go somewhere. Imagine squeezing a water balloon. The pressure doesn't disappear, it just moves to another location. When a major sinkhole forms, it alters the hydrology of the entire surrounding area. explains Dr. Chen. Groundwater that once flowed through the collapsed area now finds new pathways, potentially accelerating dissolution in areas that were previously stable. This domino effect has been observed on smaller scales throughout Florida's history. In 2012, a series of sinkholes in the Plant City area occurred in sequence over just 14 days, each new collapse appearing to trigger the next. The Clearwater event represents this same phenomenon, but on a coastal scale never before documented. Emergency management officials have quietly begun assessing evacuation routes from Miami Beach. Why? Because if a sinkhole opens beneath the causeway bridges, the entire barrier island could be cut off from the mainland. With limited evacuation options, the potential for a catastrophic scenario increases dramatically. We're not just concerned about buildings collapsing, admits Robert Gonzalez, Miami-Dade Emergency Management Director, speaking off the record. We're worried about entire transportation systems failing. If MacArthur Causeway or Julia Tuttle Causeway were compromised, we'd have over 150,000 people effectively trapped on a barrier island with limited resources. Infrastructure vulnerability extends beyond transportation. South Florida's water management systems rely on a complex network of canals, pumps, and control structures to prevent flooding. Many of these systems are built directly into the limestone substrate. The failure of even one major control structure could have cascading effects across the entire water management network. Dr. Harold Jenkins, who leads the Advanced Infrastructure Monitoring Program at Florida Atlantic University, has documented alarming signs of stress in these systems. We've recorded a 278% increase in emergency repairs to water control structures across South Florida in the past 3 years. These aren't just aging infrastructure issues, they're showing patterns consistent with subsurface movement. The most concerning evidence comes from real-time monitoring systems installed throughout Miami-Dade County following Hurricane Irma in 2017. These sensors measure minute changes in ground elevation, water pressure, and soil composition. The data shows clear patterns of subsurface activity accelerating in what geologists call precursor events, the warning signs that typically precede major collapses. Imagine this: a 300-foot sinkhole opens beneath Ocean Drive. Within minutes, Art Deco hotels, luxury condos, and thousands of residents disappear into the earth. But that's just the beginning. The initial collapse triggers a chain reaction, with surrounding limestone failing as water rushes to fill the newly formed cavity. This isn't science fiction, it's a scenario being actively modeled by the Florida Division of Emergency Management, based on data from the Clearwater event and current geological conditions beneath Miami Beach. The models are sobering, admits Dr. Rodriguez. Based on current cavity formation rates and the pattern of stress distribution we're seeing in real-time data, we're looking at multiple potential collapse zones with failure probabilities exceeding 35% within the next 36 months. The economic implications are staggering. Miami Beach generates $26 billion annually in tourism revenue. A major sinkhole event wouldn't just destroy buildings, it would collapse Florida's entire coastal economy. Insurance markets are already reacting to this emerging risk. Major insurance companies have quietly stopped writing new policies for coastal Florida properties. They've seen the geological reports. They know what's coming. State Farm, the largest property insurer in Florida, reduced its policy count by 21% in coastal counties since 2021. Allstate has decreased its exposure by nearly 40% in the same period. The insurance industry operates on risk assessment, explains Maria Hernandez, an actuary specializing in catastrophic risk modeling. When you see major insurers pulling back from an entire geographical region despite the potential profits, it means their models are showing something the public hasn't fully grasped yet. According to Dr. Rodriguez, one major coastal sinkhole could destabilize the entire southeastern Florida aquifer system. We could see a cascade of collapses from Miami to the Keys. This interconnected nature of the aquifer system means that what happens in one area affects the entire region. Climate change isn't just causing sea level rise, it's weaponizing the limestone beneath our feet. Every inch of sea level rise pushes more corrosive saltwater into the bedrock. NOAA projections indicate South Florida could see an additional 10 to 14 inches of sea level rise by 2040. At current rates of limestone dissolution, this would push multiple coastal areas beyond their stability thresholds. Here's what keeps geologists awake at night. Once limestone dissolution reaches a critical threshold, it becomes self-accelerating. The process feeds on itself until the entire structure fails. Scientists call this a runaway dissolution scenario, a point of no return for geological stability. Think of it like osteoporosis of the earth, explains Dr. Mitchell. The limestone develops more and more holes until its structural integrity simply can't support what's above it. There's no repairing the damage once it reaches this stage. It's just a matter of when, not if, failure occurs. Right now, as you're watching this, sensors buried beneath Miami Beach are transmitting data to the Florida Geological Survey every 15 minutes. The readings show ground subsidence accelerating in 3 critical zones: the area surrounding Lincoln Road, the southern end near South Point, and a concerning new formation beneath the Venetian Causeway connection to the mainland. These real-time monitoring systems, while sophisticated, can only track changes. They can't prevent them. The Florida Department of Emergency Management has updated evacuation protocols for Miami-Dade County 3 times in the past year. They're not preparing for hurricanes, they're preparing for geological collapse. Based on current dissolution rates and the Clearwater event pattern, Dr. Chen estimates Miami Beach has 18 to 24 months before reaching critical instability. That's not decades, that's next year. We're not trying to cause panic, Chen clarifies, but the data indicates we're approaching a geological tipping point much faster than previously anticipated. The public deserves to understand the risk assessment that emergency management officials and scientists are working with. What makes this situation particularly difficult to address is that, unlike hurricanes or floods, there's no proven mitigation strategy for large-scale karst collapse. Engineers have developed techniques for stabilizing individual sinkholes through grouting, essentially injecting concrete into cavities. But this approach is impractical for addressing regional-scale limestone dissolution. You can't simply inject enough concrete to stabilize entire coastal regions, explains Dr. Zhang. The scale is too vast, the process too diffuse. It would be like trying to prevent a sandcastle from washing away by adding more sand while the tide is coming in. Some communities have begun exploring adaptation strategies. In St. Petersburg, city planners have implemented what they call sacrificial zone planning, identifying areas most likely to experience geological failure and gradually relocating critical infrastructure away from these zones. Miami-Dade County has not yet officially adopted such an approach, though internal planning documents suggest similar conversations are occurring. The most proactive response has come from the private sector. Several major technology firms with data centers in South Florida have quietly built redundant facilities in more geologically stable regions of the state. Financial institutions in downtown Miami have established backup operations centers outside the limestone belt. These companies have looked at the same geological data available to scientists and made business continuity decisions accordingly. Meanwhile, property values in Miami Beach continue to soar, with luxury condominiums selling for record prices despite the mounting scientific evidence of geological risk. This disconnect between geological reality and market perception represents what economists call an information asymmetry, a gap between what experts understand and what the broader public. So what can be done? While the geological processes underway can't be easily reversed, understanding and preparation can save lives and property. First, comprehensive mapping of subsurface cavities must be accelerated. Current mapping efforts cover less than 30% of high-risk coastal areas. Ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistivity imaging, and gravimetric surveys can identify potential collapse zones before they fail. Second, building codes must evolve to address the changing geological realities. Structures in high-risk zones should incorporate foundation designs that can better distribute loads and potentially span smaller collapses. This won't prevent major sinkholes but could reduce cascading structural failures. Third, infrastructure redundancy is critical. Communities need multiple evacuation routes, decentralized water and power systems, and emergency response capabilities that don't assume roads and bridges will remain intact. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, public awareness must increase. Many Florida residents remain unaware of the geological changes occurring beneath their feet. Education campaigns about early warning signs of sinkhole formation could save countless lives. Mitchell emphasizes that while the scenario is concerning, fatalism isn't helpful. We're not saying Miami Beach or other coastal communities are doomed. We're saying these communities face increasing geological risks that require serious attention and adaptation strategies. Some innovative approaches are emerging. Engineers at the University of Central Florida have developed experimental smart foundation systems that incorporate sensors and adjustable support structures capable of compensating for minor ground movement. While not designed to withstand major collapses, these systems could provide crucial early warnings and potentially save lives by giving occupants time to evacuate. Others advocate for more dramatic interventions. Dr. Rodriguez has proposed a controversial managed retreat strategy for the most vulnerable coastal areas. We need to start having honest conversations about which areas can realistically be protected long-term and which areas might need to be gradually abandoned as the geological risks become unmanageable. So here's the question that should terrify every person living in South Florida. If a 300-foot sinkhole can swallow an entire coastline in 90 seconds, and if the same geological conditions exist beneath Miami Beach, are we watching the countdown to one of the most expensive natural disasters in American history? The ground beneath Florida is changing faster than at any point in human history. The limestone that has supported civilization here for centuries is dissolving at unprecedented rates. What happens next will depend on how seriously we take the warnings written in stone beneath our feet. This is Earth Attacks, bringing you the geological truths that shape our world. If you found this information valuable, hit subscribe and enable notifications to stay informed about developing Earth threats. Join our community of over 2 million viewers who refuse to be caught off guard by our planet's most destructive forces. Remember, understanding the danger is your first line of defense. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next deep dive into Earth's most dramatic phenomena.